This rare muscle car could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 4.6 seconds. It also dominated the drag strip with a quarter-mile time of 11.08 seconds at 128 miles per hour. But what made the 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt truly legendary was its ability to strike fear into its fiercest competitors. This is Ford's rare 427 monster that even Dodge was scared to race. In the early 1960s, muscle cars ruled the road and the track. The competition among American car companies was intense. Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors were all racing to build the ultimate drag race champion. Chevrolet had their powerful 427-powered Impala Z11, and Chrysler's 426 Max wedge engines were making waves with the Plymouth Savoy. But Ford had something special: environmental Fairlane Thunderbolt. Now, this car wasn't just another vehicle. It was Ford's winning strategy that led to multiple victories and a strong place in drag racing history. As the 1964 NHRA Winter Nationals and the Manufacturers' Cup approached, Ford knew their Galaxy model was too heavy. They needed something faster and lighter to leave the competition behind. The solution? The Fairlane Thunderbolt. Unlike the heavier Galaxies, the Fairlane was over 600 pounds lighter, making it a fierce contender. The Thunderbolt wasn't built on a regular Ford assembly line. Instead, it was a special project with Andy Houghton of Dearborn Steel Tubing. They took partially built Fairlane bodies and stripped out all the unnecessary weight. Sound-deadening materials, seam sealers, heaters, and radios were all removed. The fenders, hood, and deck lid were all swapped for lightweight fiberglass, and the steel bumpers were replaced with aluminum. Even the factory glass was changed to plexiglass panels. Inside, the Thunderbolt was just as bare. The factory seats were replaced with almost flat buckets from Econoline vans, and everything that wasn't needed for racing was taken out. At first, the car was too light, so Ford had to add a steel bumper in the rear to meet the NHRA's minimum weight requirement of 3,200 pounds. The heart of the Thunderbolt was its powerful 427 engine. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, enthusiasts and racers both believe that it actually was probably closer to 500 horsepower. With a compression ratio of 12.71 and twin four-barrel carburetors, this engine was a beast. To handle all that power, the Thunderbolt had tubular exhaust headers, an electric fuel pump, and an altered rear suspension. The inner high-beam headlamps were replaced with massive air scoops to funnel oxygen straight to the engine, giving the car its aggressive look and incredible performance. The Thunderbolt made a stunning debut at the 1964 NHRA Winter Nationals. In the final race, drivers Gas Ronda and Butch Leal, both in Thunderbolts, tore down the track with incredible speed, showing everyone that Ford had built a true masterpiece. The Thunderbolt didn't just compete, it dominated. With a 0-60 miles per hour time of just 4.6 seconds, and a quarter-mile time of 11.08 seconds at 128 miles per hour. It was a lightning bolt on the drag strip. It went on to win the NHRA Top Stock Crown and the NHRA Manufacturers' Cup, securing its place in drag racing history. To understand the Thunderbolts, we need to look back at the early 1960s. The concept of the pony car wasn't even around yet. The Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger were still in development. This meant that Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors were competing with full-sized cars. Ford was running their Galaxies in the NHRA Superstock series. Initially in 1961, the Galaxy had a 390 cubic inch V8, but this engine was soon outclassed by GM and Chrysler's bigger engines. By 1962, Ford introduced a 406 cubic inch version of the engine, pushing over 400 horsepower, which did help their Superstock cars perform even better. Then, in 1963, Ford replaced the 406 with a 427 cubic inch engine, setting the stage for the legendary 1964 Thunderbolt. The 1963 Galaxy Lightweight with a 420. The 1927 engine was fast but had a major issue: its weight. Even after trying to lighten it, the Galaxy still weighed over 3,400 pounds. For 1964, the Superstock class minimum was 3,200 pounds. Since all manufacturers had engines with similar power, the extra 200 pounds really mattered. That's where the Fairlane came in. The Fairlane was a mid-sized car from Ford, significantly lighter. Empty and dry, it weighed around 3,000 pounds. With fuel, a driver, and the bigger engine, it was much closer to the 3,200-pound limit, giving it a big advantage over the heavier Galaxies. In order to race the Fairlane, Ford needed to build 100 street-legal cars with the same specs to meet NHRA requirements. The main challenge was fitting the 427 engine into the Fairlane chassis. At that time, the Fairlane's largest engine was a 289 cubic inch small block. To fit the 427 big block, Ford had to make significant modifications, including relocating the battery to the trunk, notching the shock towers, and creating custom tubular headers to fit the engine in the tight space. Efforts to reduce the weight went beyond just the engine bay. The stock Fairlane seats were swapped out for more simple flat seats from a 40 Econoline van. They stripped out everything that wasn't necessary for racing, including the radio, sound-deadening materials, sun visors, and armrests. They even removed the passenger side windshield wiper to save a bit more weight. On the outside, they added lightweight fiberglass fenders, doors, and the famous teardrop hood. Initially, the Thunderbolts had fiberglass bumpers as well, but NHRA regulations required them to switch to aluminum. Despite its dominance, the Thunderbolt's racing career was short-lived. By 1965, the racing world was shifting towards smaller, more compact cars, which would soon be known as pony cars. This change made full-size drag cars like the Thunderbolt less competitive, so it only had 1 year of production. Today, original Thunderbolts with matching factoring numbers are highly sought after by Ford fans. These rare cars often sell for multi-six-figure prices, making them prized possessions for those lucky enough to own one. The Thunderbolt's legacy lives on, not just through its performance, but also through the meticulous craftsmanship and engineering that went into its creation. Carl Moyer, a racer and collector who owns and drove a Thunderbolt, played a big role in keeping its legacy alive. He was dedicated to restoring these cars to perfection, carefully hand-blocking, doing bodywork, and meticulously restoring the paint. He brought the fiberglass fenders, original hood, and aluminum front bumper back to their original glory. Carl chose a modern base coat clear coat finish for the paint, even adding his Carl Ford logo under 5 coats of clear for a flawless look. But the Thunderbolt's restoration wasn't just about looks. The engine got a lot of attention too. Back in the day, unleaded fuel didn't exist, so the exhaust seats and cylinder heads were not hardened. Modern restorations replace these with hardened seats and new valves to handle today's fuels. Shelby's aluminum blockheads are used for better performance and to keep the weight down. The end result? An engine that cranks out over 700 horsepower without any extra tuning. It's a testament to the incredible engineering of the Thunderbolt. The 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt is still one of the most exciting and legendary classic cars to ever hit the track. Its name says it all. On the racetrack, it was a storm of power and speed that made a huge impact in racing history. The Thunderbolt didn't just race, it dominated and thrilled, leaving a legacy that is unmatched. It roared down drag strips across the nation and became the benchmark for all muscle cars. As we celebrate this incredible machine, we can't help but wonder, what if the Thunderbolt were brought back today? For those who remember the thunderous roar of its engine, the adrenaline rush as it sped down the track, and the pure joy of its speed, the Fairlane Thunderbolt is still a symbol of power and innovation. It's a collector's dream, a reminder of the golden age of muscle cars, and a tribute to Ford's brilliant engineering. And that's the story of the 1964 Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt. A car that left a lasting mark on drag racing and continues to captivate car enthusiasts everywhere. If you enjoyed this journey through rare car history, make sure to click on the next video to learn more about the world's most extraordinary vehicles.